It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
So, Tammy, we have the farmer mayor in studio today, and I'm so excited about this because I know him well, and I know his leadership skill set because I've followed him and watched him do his magic in the Farm Bureau family, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. I mean, I grew up in Arizona and hearing about the long history he has with Arizona and city of Mesa, I I have a lot of historical questions to ask him that are off
Good.
topic here. So
Good. Yeah.
it'll be great.
And just before the session, we were talking about water. We could spend the whole hour on the water. But Mark Freeman, welcome to the studio and welcome to the Fill Your Plate Now podcast. We so appreciate you being here with us. But you are current mayor of Mesa and you also farm. I also know you. We go back a few years because you were, and you still are on the Maricopa County Farm Bureau board, and you were their president at one time. So you may feel that some of these leadership skills that you have to apply as mayor of Mesa here in Arizona, you kind of fine-tuned while you were in the Farm Bureau family. So my first question to you is talk about your history and your family. How long has your family been in Arizona and the farming aspect of it?
Well, Julie, that's a great question because I had to do some research myself. But I know on my mother's side, one of my grandfathers, I say it easier that way. They came here in 1877 to Arizona, to the Salt River Valley, and they were able to meet up with some other pioneers here in Mesa, what we call Mesa. So back in the early days, the city of Mesa was founded in 1878 from my grandfather, Charles Chrisman, the Pomeroys, the Robesons, the Serines, and others. But then what they did was really fantastic. They followed some of the ancient Indian ditches and canals, and they were able to get water out of the Salt River. So they put the brush dams up in there, and they were able to open those ditches up, clean them up, and got water to Mesa downtown. And that's what started Mesa in 1877. And I love that history, but on my father's side, they also went to Snowflake, Arizona in 1880. So then I had two sides, and I just feel so blessed because, we took almost everybody now has come and funneled to Mesa, Arizona, where I am the mayor of Mesa, Arizona, the 36th largest city in the United States. And about 520,000. We're the third largest city in Arizona.
And yet in all of that, you're still able to farm. Talk a little bit about that, the history
So
of the farm.
agriculture,
Yeah.
So I grew up in an agricultural family, and we were, I say regular farmers because you can be citrus farmers today or vegetable farmers, but we do the crops of cotton, alfalfa, grains, and that was pretty alfalfa as well. And we grew a lot for the dairy. So my grandfather, on the Freeman side, he married what we call Lehigh girl in Mesa. And so we just farmed in the north central part of Mesa and grew up ag. And then I kind of got out of the ag business and worked in the construction trades for quite a few years.
Mhm.
Then I got hired by Mesa Fire Medical Department and worked there 31 years, retiring as a captain paramedic, hazmat special teams captain. And then before I retired, I got back into agriculture, farming some historic properties in Mesa, Arizona, which you've been to,
Mm-hmm.
our farmers market. And we've been doing that about 48 years now.
Wow.
So
That's
he multitasks. He can drive a tractor and go into the
But
mayor's office.
yeah. No, I mean, you just have such a amazing, rich history with the state. It's fascinating to talk to you about all kinds of things. But, just looking at that farming side, tell us a little more about, personally what it meant to you and how it's influenced all the other aspects of your life, like your family and the community.
Our agriculture is just hard to beat, really. I mean, food on the table, whether it's if it's produce, milk, cheese, beef, and some of the foundation crops. So obviously is alfalfa for crop foundation, grains to feed the dairy cattle, the beef cattle, hogs and chickens and everything. So I grew up in a very uh, normal ag family. I grew up on a farm, and so we had horses and cows and some pigs and uh, horses. My dad didn't like horses a whole lot because you couldn't, should I say, eat them. He didn't believe in eating horses. But we raised horses, and that was fun. But I think my foundation was from agriculture. I know, chopping cotton, just doing all that, hauling hay, just get in the dirt, have the dirt and soil in your feet and your hair, and I just loved it.
It's very
And-
foundational,
Yeah,
you know?
and you are not alone. A lot of farmers are not that fond of horses. We actually have a couple horses, but I call them therapeutic animals because they're calming and but they do not produce any food. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
What about your day to day then? How do you balance between? Because you still have a working farm. During the summer, it's Freeman's corn patch.
Mm.
Did I,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And we might have the impression that as mayor of Mesa, you're always going into the office, and I'm sure there's a lot of that, and maybe that's taken up more of your time. But how do you balance your day to day? What does it look like if I were to follow you around one day?
I have to chuckle because I'm fortunate to have 3 great staff people that actually 4, Mrs. Freeman, Leanne Freeman. She's on the house and the farming side of it. But it's all about the schedule and time management. What I learned early on, you have to have the right timing for everything. And some of my days start really early, irrigating, and then having crops, the fields. I raise alfalfa, so drying them out and getting them ready to harvest. And so I will start early in the morning at the farm, and fortunately it's close to City Hall, and carry a change of clothes in my truck, and then go to City Hall, and I may not get done till, 7 or 8 in the evenings. But it's just a balance of time.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I like the challenge, and it's kind of like being a firefighter. You're always putting out fires everywhere, but I have good people that work around me.
Really, I've given a lot of your credit to your leadership skill set to being in the Farm Bureau family, but a lot of that also came as being a firefighter. And didn't you just help? This was in the news, I think, last year, even after you were elected mayor, somebody got hit by a car on a bike, and everybody was okay. Want to qualify that, but you even had to kind of put on your firefighter hat there for a second because you happened to be right there or something.
Well, yeah, we were traveling on a road in Mesa, and we saw some cars pulled over and some still in the street, and my instinct said, well, there's an accident. And so I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to have to be getting out of the car. And so it was nice to be able to go over there and do a calming effect for the patient who had a broken leg. And then other bystanders really didn't know what to do, so I helped give them some direction. And it was funny. They said, well, who are you? I said, I'm nobody. I'm just the mayor of Mesa, Arizona. They go, oh. They moved to the side. I said, I got this, and I'm a
That's
retired
great.
firefighter. And so I talked to the patient there and calmed her down.
Wow.
So you worked as a firefighter and paramedic over the medical area for 31 years, was it?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Now, with all of the skills with that, does that intersect with your farming at all, or anything you take from one to the other or community? It sounds like it actually helps with the community.
Well, it does. You learn different, I think, skills and assets with whether you're a firefighter, a farmer, and the mayor. It all goes together. When I tell people, I go, you seem really calm. You don't get really excited over things. I say, well, there's certain things I do, but in my experience, I responded over 64,000 calls of service in my career.
Wow.
And so I've seen everything out there. And so I'm able to holistically analyze it and decide, okay, is this super priority, or, how do we handle the situation?
Mhm.
And that's what I go by, and I help. Hopefully everything turns out okay.
Yeah. You were in Farm Bureau leadership president of the Maricopa County Farm Bureau. You've served on the state board of the
Mm.
Arizona Farm Bureau. So you had a lot of exposure, and then full-time firefighter. You've had a lot of exposure to being engaged, being involved. How did you, it was easier than probably for you to transfer that over as you became a city council member and then mayor of Mesa. Talk about that a little bit more.
So I would say some of my foundational roots were uh, preparing for the Maricopa County Board, Farm Bureau, because you get in as a grassroots person. And, I decided my dad had always been a member, and I really didn't know much about Farm Bureau. So Dad got me going again, and I decided, well, if I'm going to be in Farm Bureau, I'm going to be involved and advocate for agriculture.
Mhm.
And Mesa was diminishing. We're losing our ag all the time. I think we have 3% of ag left in Mesa, maybe less than that. But at the end of the day, it taught me some foundational things on leadership. One thing I learned is listening and applying those listening skills into policy, taking the policies and advocating for the policy to help give direction. So I think those are things. And then I took all of that and applied it to a grassroots organization. Our area, we have a kind of a ad hoc homeowners association, I'd say, that we advocate for horse and ag, some larger properties with agriculture, rural ag.
Mhm.
And I was talking one day to my city council member, and he said, I'm termed out, Mark, and you know everybody in Mesa. Why don't you run for city council? So I was able to apply, everything I learned before. And I go, yeah, Dave, I'll run for city council, and was able to serve 2 terms, and now as mayor.
Oh, that's
That's
great.
So everything kind of, Julie, to your point, everything kind of, Farm Bureau, getting involved, learning to be involved over here, being involved here, still doing farming.
Mhm.
And here I am today.
That's
That-
what I love about and I know I'm giving props to Farm Bureau, but darn it, I love it. I like it because it's so grassroots. You, the farmer, and the rancher, you guys are the ones that tell staff, I happen to be staff,
Mm.
what we're supposed to do when it comes especially to policy and even communication issues, ag education issues. And that's not as common in a lot of organizations today. So
Yeah, and you wear so many hats. You're doing so many different things, which leads me to a question I know our listeners will want to know about, and I personally would love to hear: time management. How do you balance all of that? Any tips for us?
I can tell you get less sleep that way. I, uh, you just have to look at each day and calendar everything. And what I've learned is your meetings, everything that you do, have to have value. If you're not getting value out of what you're assigned to do, then maybe you need to push it to the side and bring something up a little higher level so that you can learn from that and be productive. That's one thing in ag. You want to be productive. You plant your seeds, you plant your transplants or whatever you're doing, and you expect a harvest time. So my staff kind of chuckles. They say, well, we're going to go plant some seeds today and see what happens. And so, those harvest times are out, days out. But, right now, we're experiencing some of our planting schedules going on, and we're going to be planting a lot of ag stuff, produce now, and a harvest here around Memorial Day. But
I love that, though. Value. That's simple,
yeah,
but it's so true.
yeah,
You just
what is
have
the
to look
value?
at what the value is of everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Great tip.
So on the farm, it sounds like the staff's been out there too.
we have our staff barn meetings
Oh,
under the barn.
okay.
I have some great ladies that I work for. You get that? I work. And
Smart man. Yeah.
So we have an old country table, and I said, the City Hall is a mile away, and
Mhm.
let's get out of City Hall, and we'll just sit here, kind of in the open. You've been to the barn,
Yeah, I
Julie,
love it.
know?
I buy your corn almost every year, not quite every year, but almost every year I get over there. Yeah.
And so we'll have a staff meeting there, and I'll pull a developer in or a zoning attorney, and they say, well, I need to meet with you. I said, well, I'm not in the office, but you can come to the farm. You got a farm? And I go, yeah. And so we'll have a conversation there. So there's things that I do that are a little off and different.
So that's one of the ways that you are connecting urban families to agriculture and being seated. Remind us where your farm is, especially this summer, so we can get your sweet corn.
It's at Brown and Center Street
Okay.
in Mesa.
Yeah, and it's real obvious off the road on that corner. Yeah, I think it's the southeast corner.
It is,
Yep.
southeast.
So making that connection with consumers in one way, because the metropolitan area has grown up around it, so to speak, and yet you've got this farm right smack dab in the middle of the Mesa City limits. So your Freeman's Corn Patch probably supports that whole effort for people to come onto the farm, because they literally have to come onto the farm to buy your sweet corn. But talk a little bit more about why you do that and what these connections have meant for some of these families that return year after year to buy your sweet corn and other products, other summer vegetables.
Yeah, so I'll go back a little bit in the history. So my brother, my dad started it. So the Nesbitt family, say they're the landlords, and they are tied into the Fitch family. So Larkin and Mildred Fitch,
Okay.
who are tied in the Dobson family in Chandler. So they came
I
to
didn't know
Mesa.
that.
Yeah, so the Dobsons are related to the Nesbitt family.
Okay.
And Mrs. Nesbitt's still alive, great lady, and
I've
she's
met her.
96 years old.
Oh my goodness. You had her out one year.
Yeah,
Maybe more.
she is, and she's doing well. And she always said, well, you have to farm this till I die, Mark. And I go, oh, okay. That's a lot of pressure. But the sibling, her kids and I, we all grew up with each other, so we have a good working relationship. And what we've done is taken it to the next level, meaning I work with our Westwood FFA group. So the FFA groups come in. Our Farm City breakfast that we host at the farm will be March 23rd at 8 a.m. if anybody would like to come. We have, our sheriff, elected officials, the county supervisor, other people, and we introduce them to a little bit of ag in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And it's just a great, fun time, and we've been hosting it for probably 16 years out there.
And hence the reason they can't call it the Farm City Breakfast. It's unique to Maricopa County. You guys are all stars with this, and I believe the only Farm Bureau county that actually does this year in, year out, and I think you guys conceived it. But to that, why did she want you to keep farming it? And then she said, until I die. I mean, those were her own words.
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do after?
We're working on options.
Okay, good. In other words,
So-
maybe you'll continue the farming.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's the hope. And
That's-
and so she grew up there. She moved there when she was 2 years old. And so having the farm is just a great memory for her. And she's just treated me very well, all the family. And we all grew up, the kids and I, we all grew up with each other.
You're almost like extended family. She is a treasure. Tell her that.
Okay.
And this is a neat story. She was adamant about that.
Mhm.
She's kept the land there for farming right in the middle of Mesa. Amazing.
But what I love is that, as you said, Mesa is about 3%
Mm.
agriculture, which is pretty much in line nationwide with how much agriculture is there population-wise. 2% or 3% of the population is in agricultural areas. And the way that you've been able to bridge the urban, more developed areas to teach them about agriculture is amazing. And having lived here all your life, you've seen a lot of changes with agriculture and less agriculture in areas like Mesa. I think also we share, the urban and the agriculture area shares the concerns about water. Talk a little bit about, I know we talked about it before we started the podcast,
Sure.
water and Mesa and some of the things you're doing.
And I just want to do a little bit. I think, Julie, we're 3 to 4 generations removed from agriculture today because
Correct.
there's less ag, to your point, Tammy. And so, like I grew up in agriculture, and my kids somewhat did, but my grandkids won't really.
Yeah.
But they have worked on the farm in our farmers market, so we'll give that a little bit of credit. But to drive everything is water, not only, in municipalities, but agriculture. And that's one thing I'm really passionate about, that's why I've joined with other mayors, a water coalition group, to help keep water flowing in Arizona. And as you know, water with the Colorado River diminishing supply, every municipality is going to have to take cuts. And on the municipal side, they don't, ag in Pinal County has taken a huge hit. My dad ended up selling some land in Maricopa County and went down to Pinal County to farm down by Coolidge, and their water has been cut by 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're farming in the Salt River Project watershed,
Mhm.
you have all your acreage, your allotted acreage feet to grow your crops how you want. And then Roosevelt Water Conservation District does deliver ag water. And so between those two, we have plenty of water because they're off the Salt River and the Verde watershed. But with impending cuts in Maricopa County, we're really fortunate to have a good supply of water to do all our agriculture. But as you know, municipal and developments are taking over ag, and that water is being converted from farming or ag into other things like industry, commercial, and residential.
I would dare say that, is it fair for me to say that you may know the ag water versus the urban water needs to their maximum, full volume, metaphor intended, because you come out of agriculture and you see some of the struggles they're having. Before we started this session, you had said that Central Arizona Project, which basically manages the river or the water that comes from the Colorado River,
Correct.
60% of it Arizona uses, or how did you
No,
say that?
Mesa. In Mesa, we use
Okay.
almost 60% of tap
Okay.
water.
Okay. There was something else that I wanted to ask. It's the National Energy. You are the vice chair of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Energy Committee. Is that tied into this whole water issue? And then I am curious about this committee that you're part of on the national level.
So the committee, we're really dealing with power infrastructure and not so much water, but water does, we use water for hydroelectric
Yeah.
generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so hydro is very important for electricity to run our wells in our, if you have an ag well, you're going to use electricity unless you're using natural gas, but otherwise it's electric. And so, all the hydroelectric. So part of the committee I'm on looks at making municipalities aware of different infrastructure needs that they might have in power, electricity generation. It could be nuclear, it could be solar, it could be battery energy storage systems, hydro again, as well as coal-fired. So there's all these different multiple aspects. And so as one of the chairpersons, I get to lead that and listen to other cities all throughout the United States, what their issues are. And Mesa, we're a little one-off. We have a small electric company that was purchased in 1913 from Dr. Chandler, who's
Mm-hmm.
Chandler's named, not Chandler, Arizona's named after. And I thought, well, why would we buy an electric company in 1913? Well, we have it today as part of our enterprise portfolio, providing electricity for our residents in our community. And actually, part of the farm is off our City of Mesa electric grid. So we have to buy power. We have to structure it just like Salt River Project or APS does on our electricity. So the energy part just encompasses, allows myself and the other chair to help listen and help give direction to other municipalities and how to get their power needs in their communities.
That would be fascinating. What are some of the most interesting things you've learned from some of the other mayors in that area?
Probably one of the, and this would be a sidebar conversation, but data centers and how much power they're taking away from the electrical grid. And what I share with other mayors is you need to decide where you want your electricity to go to. If you're the power supplier, do you give it all to data centers? They take a massive amount of power,
Mhm.
or some of them, and plus your commercial, your residential, and retail development in your neighborhoods, because you bring people, you bring industry, you bring sales tax revenue, you bring all these different infrastructure growth. So you have to measure what you get. That's probably the most dynamic thing right now all throughout the United States is President Trump and his administration wants to bring data centers and AI to a lot of municipalities. So I can tell the data center developers are really engaged.
I also hear that there be some where it's feasible and suitable are being encouraged to maybe create or build their own power sources for those particular data centers. Does your committee talk about that at all?
We talk about that because some of the municipalities said that data centers, we want to come into your city, but we're going to provide our own electricity. Well, just how are you going to do that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so a lot of that's natural gas generation. So they put large natural gas, generators in. Well, the trouble, not that it's trouble, but noise attenuation,
Oh, sure.
setbacks, how's it going to affect air quality, all those components. And then if you create extra electricity, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sell it back to the electrical provider? That's one of the things they're considering. And then nuclear, the small modular reactors, SMRs or SNRs, small nuclear reactors or small modular reactors. They can be a thing in the future where probably in 8 years we'll have a data center having those as well.
Yeah, and when you say mobile, they are movable, and they're a lot smaller than what we think of when we think of Palo Verde
Yeah.
nuclear power plant. I have a fun little history tidbit for you. The Murphys actually worked for Doc Chandler before we started our own farming in the Chandler area.
Oh, wow.
So we're real familiar with that history, and it's fascinating. In fact, my dad, who's 87 now, says he remembers meeting Doc Chandler, who's kind of iconic, at least here in the East Valley and certainly in Chandler. It makes it a little bit fun.
Yeah.
What, for all of our listeners, and many of them, I'm telling all my farmers and ranchers they have to listen to Fill Your Plate Now. I'm just kidding. But we have a lot of listeners, obviously, that are urban. This is a forum, a platform for you. What words of encouragement would you give to urban families to know that you've made the blend? You can it's almost like you've got your boots on the farm and boots in the city. So what kind of things would you encourage consumers to consider?
Well, I have 2 sets of boots, one in my truck for farm and then one for city business. But
I love it.
what I do is I partner with the University of Arizona Extension Office. And so we'll have clinics at the farm. And so when we have our farm city breakfasts, we invite the schools, boards, superintendents, neighborhood leaders. It could be master gardeners. Everybody is welcome to come for the farm city breakfast. And then the U of A is there. But then we host clinics there. And that's what I really like, having the clinics there, open air clinics, because it brings you back to an open air farm. And I don't have air conditioning, by the way. It is what it is. So people are really excited about that. So that's what I would say. Get involved with, I give a plug in for U of A. Obviously, they're a great asset. They're just down the street here. And I use them quite a bit.
And that's another way that you're connecting and actually providing insights and education that urban families can take back with them. I love the Master Gardener program that Extension provides through the University of Arizona. It's really neat.
That's a great program. And with your hand in so many things, having the farming side, the firefighting side, I'm sure it's all come together in helping you establish priorities as the mayor of Mesa. What are your top priorities?
So before I get to the priorities, when we have a small historic house and property that we've allocated monies to help create an education platform. So it's called the Serine House at Center Street and 2nd Street. And we'll create a little farm garden there using Steadfast Farms out in the Eastmark area. And they will come in and help teach gardening and as well as whatever you want to do at your home. So we're going to have historic tours and have a place for some event space and gathering. So that'll be going on here recently. So we've done some of the renovations. So hopefully I don't like working in years, but some of these things will take years.
Mhm.
But once it's up and going, it'll be really cool.
Awesome.
So you asked about priorities. Priorities to me is just making sure our city is safe. One of the number one things when I'm out in the community, we want to be safe. Mesa is for the population of our size, we're the number 2 highly rated city in the United States. And
That's
then
great.
for safety,
Yeah.
Yeah, for safety.
yeah, for a population of our size. So from 500,000 to 650,000. And so the statistics prove that. They want to have great infrastructure, and the delivery of services. One thing I tell people, we're a full service city in Mesa. So we provide your water, wastewater, solid waste, recycling. We have a natural gas company called the City of Mesa Natural Gas Company, as well as an electric company. And these enterprises help us to facilitate economic growth and development. And it's just phenomenal, the amount of growth in Mesa. And I just recently got back from a trip to Japan. We have over 30 Japanese businesses in Mesa that support the semiconductor industry. So now we've moved from agriculture to semiconductor.
Yeah.
And so we're technology, innovation, workforce, all of those things collaborate and create a firestorm, so to speak. And that's what we're working on. I'm working on with my council is help keep the workforce, make sure the careers are there. We have Virgin Galactic in Mesa, Arizona, at Mesa Gateway Airport. They're building this spaceship that will go into space with 6 passengers. The mothership will fly into Mesa Gateway Airport, pick up the craft, take it back to Las Cruces, Mexico, and launch it from there. And they're building it right in Mesa, Arizona.
Wow.
Then you've heard of Waymo?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Seen Waymo? Heard of Waymo? Yeah.
So every Waymo is built in Mesa, Arizona.
I didn't know that.
See, little known fact. That's why
Hmm.
we're sharing it. And
Wow.
so once Waymos are redone or refurbished, so they come as a kit and they're broken down, everything's put in it. So every Waymo, and the next one coming out is called the Zeekr. It's another spin-off of the current Jaguar they're using. So the Zeekrs will come out. We have a lot of innovation happening that we're moving. So you asked me what's going on? Lots of different things, it's just nonstop.
Wow.
I like, though, that one of your top priorities is safety for a city, especially a growing city, and compliments to you and the council and previous mayors, too, for how the downtown looks now. Um, I've always loved Mesa, have never lived in it, but I was born in a Mesa hospital, and we always went to El Charro,
Yeah.
El Charro Mexican food. But I've just seen some of the improvements they've made, really, especially down Main Street. It's pretty cool to see. Any last comments on water that would be good for us to realize? There's big negotiations taking place right now, and I think you are part of those,
Mhm.
representing, the city element of it. But the Bureau of Reclamation is saying you guys have to have your differences figured out by,
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. That's a little bit brutal.
Which is also
They're not showing you a lot of love. No, that's not true.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that it's Valentine's Day, so it's basically this week. What are you hopeful? I know it's not fair to ask a politician to be predictive, but what's your take on everything that's going on?
Well, I was on Face the Nation about 10 days ago, and this is what I said. Arizona has junior water rights. We've taken 775,000 acre feet of cuts in Arizona, and they expect us to cut more. When we cut more from Arizona, I'm talking the whole state of Arizona, Yuma especially, what are they doing today? They're producing all the veggie crops. So if you're
They
having
go all over
salad,
the United States.
90% of the salads
Mhm.
eaten, it comes from Yuma. They may not get as many cuts, but however, the point is we're doing water conservation in all our municipalities, all throughout Arizona. Water cuts, we've done our part. We need others to step in. California has taken zero. I'll say they've taken 0 water cuts. It's time for them to step up to the plate. Nevada has less water shares than any of the lower basins. So the lower basins, Nevada, Arizona, California, Mexico. Mexico has done a little bit of their part. California, 0. Nevada has less. But then when you talk about the upper basin, it's just a matter of what they're willing to do. The governors are after it, and the Bureau of Reclamation is given a timeline, and we'll see what happens after the timeline. But we can't cut Arizona anymore because it will affect agriculture, and then we will not be producing as you know, ag is what, a 40-something billion dollar economy. I just saw
Nearly 31 billion.
31 billion.
Yeah.
So that's a big driver in our economy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we have immigrant labor doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And without the immigrant labor doing the labor to harvest all this.
And it's very skilled labor. Most people don't realize that aspect of it. So you can't just, I just don't have the skill set, especially with how quickly they have to respond in the harvest and then trimming the vegetables and knowing what to pick. One time I was down at a wine grape farm and it was harvest time, and I just thought I would try to experience it. Well, I'm working right along with the harvesters. I was a joke and I was in their way, and I had to apologize because
Well,
it
even
was a mess.
operating the machinery.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, even operating the machinery. What are your...
Can I
Go ahead, yeah.
I was just going to say that's where autonomous vehicles are coming into play. My brother sent me
Right.
pictures yesterday I've got 3 of them in Tulare, California at the World Ag Expo, which I've been to numerous times. And autonomous farm vehicles
Yep.
are going out there to compensate for the loss of labor
Yep.
on farms. And they're doing a lot of heavy lifting. So I think autonomy, it's not affordable for me. I'm a small farm, 50 acres, and for me to purchase anything, forget it. But for a large farm, you look at your employee wages, your benefits, your health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
all that combined. And if you have a lot of employees, it might behoove you to buy a piece of equipment that can take care of that aspect.
And you bring something else up too that individuals have to be encouraged about, that the autonomy. We have been working on that for a long time. The only hindrance goes back to your point, which is the cost. That, you pencil it out? You as a small farmer certainly wouldn't be able to, but some of the larger farms in Yuma possibly. I mean, they're using laser systems to kill weeds because...
And pest management.
And pest,
Yes.
yeah, and the pest management. So they're working as hard as possible to make things as autonomous as possible. But when it's cost prohibitive, they have to go a little bit slower. I guess a final question for both Tammy and I is, any takeaways? We always kind of like to end with our guests saying, well, you ought to consider this. And if it's 1 or 2 or 3.
That you'd like our listeners to remember about agriculture.
And certainly thriving with agriculture in an urban area.
Coexisting.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say chocolate milk doesn't come from brown cows.
Love
But
it.
it is very tasty.
Well, and kudos to Arizona Farm Bureau. They have ag in the classroom that they've been doing for decades now. And Katie, I'm sure she's still over the
Yeah.
program.
Oh, yeah.
She's very
rocking it.
passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think getting out to the young kids about how agriculture is in Arizona, and every day you go to eat your food, it reminds me of who grew that food and how hard it was to get it here.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a process in it, and it's very time consuming, and it's not easy. And everybody wants the best of the best, but not all the time the best of the best. The number 2s are just as good as the best of the best.
Yep. They are.
So the number 2 watermelons I want to get at, cantaloupes, it doesn't look perfect or round. They don't grow it in a square box to make a square watermelon. The other ones taste just as good.
They're just as tasty.
Well, and we take, food safety for granted because we've got such a great system to monitor the safety of all of the foods we eat. And most Americans don't think about that.
It's true.
I agree.
Mark Freeman, you have the best balance between the urban and rural lifestyle, and it's a treasure that your family and your close associates and Mrs. Nesbitt wanted to commit to continuing that because it's helping a lot of people that may never have a touch point with agriculture. You're making it happen. And in the meantime, you're serving as mayor of Mesa. So we're honored to have you, and
Yeah.
Well,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
It's been quite the journey, and I never expected it, but I'm here, and I'm going to make the best out of it. And I always compare it to a rodeo, an 8-second ride. You don't want to get bucked off.
Well, we
Exactly.
really appreciate you being here with us
Thank you.
today and hope you'll come back again sometime.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need, especially just on the water issue, especially after February 14th and the negotiations, and see what all the states came to, right?
Great. Love it.
All right.
Anytime.